Hey, on today's episode, we're going to be chatting about how it's not all about you, and when you are willing to admit that, how things can get better. We're going to be chatting with Marlow Marshall from Marlow Design on this episode of Founder to Founder. Welcome. This is Founder to Founder, the podcast where we highlight the stories of perseverance, innovation, and community from the Workmacer family. I'm Alex, and I'm excited to share the real experiences behind the successes of these incredible founders. Hey, welcome back to Founder to Founder. We're here with Marlow again. If you missed the last episode, we talked a little bit about the origin story of how we came to know each other. Check it out, that's kind of interesting. Today we're going to talk about how not everything is about you. So last time, Marlow, you mentioned that like the number one key thing that made your business able to actually make it to the 10-year mark was the fact that you made a realization at some point along the way that not everything is about you. And so why don't we just dive straight into give an example of how, like, what that learning experience was. Truly talk about a story or a time or a client or an experience that you made it all about you and maybe it didn't turn out the way that you had hoped.
For sure. I would say in degrees of my planning, I kept everything very close to the chest about the business. And obviously there's proprietary things that you want to keep to yourself, but there was a lot of the planning aspects, a lot of the vision, a lot of the components of what the business had to expand to that I didn't really tell my employees. But probably I would say my biggest issue was, of course, keeping the accounting all to myself as well too. I never, being that I didn't have someone giving me those second pair of eyes on the business to know where your costs are actually sitting at, where you're actually spending the money on. This is what you can afford, this is what you can't afford. I did everything by feel, and made it think that I'm smart enough that I can handle this all and I can work it on my own. But without someone giving me a secondary opinion on the numbers, that's how I very quickly became basically over leveraged and not enough income coming in with as far as the sales. Because we had a great year. I think 2016 we hit the $1 million mark pretty quickly.
So that was your second year of business.
Second year of business, yeah.
You hit $1 million.
We hit $1 million, yeah. So it's granted the industry lends itself to those kind of numbers. Sure. There's high costs, high things to that. But yeah, the fact we hit it quite quickly. But that being said, is that I then assumed we're going to hit that every single time, no problem. And so then based my costs off of that, and then didn't have the marketing apparatus, didn't have the other things in place to really be able to support that. So by not having a dedicated accountant to my business and was trying to do everything all myself, it then in turn spiraled out of control. So then I couldn't look at the numbers again. I had to then go back and try to figure out why sales were slow, and so I was pulling myself into too many different places. So by keeping it all to myself, keeping it all internally, thinking that I was the smartest guy in the room, that I can handle all this stuff myself, that put me in a situation where, not necessarily that I didn't have the answers to how to fix it, I physically couldn't be in all places at once to fix it. So by not bringing other people in to support me and provide the support that the business, especially even though the industry supported $1 million for one person is just too much volume. There's retail stores that have 4, 5, 6, 7 employees that run $1 million stores. So to think that I could do all the sales and do the back stuff and focus on every aspect of the business, thinking that I could do everything as I'm some kind of Superman was ridiculous.
So what did that actually look like on if you were to zoom in on the worst day in whether it was 2016 or 2017, because maybe 2016.
2016 was great. It was 2017, 2018. That was when things started making the negative turn.
Got it. So worst day of 2017, you are thinking that you're going to hit $1 million, and maybe you're doing it still, and everything you just mentioned about how you just can't physically be everywhere. At what point? What was the moment that you everything just crashed?
The rock bottom, if you will.
Yeah.
Having to make the decision between my own personal financial health or the business's financial health. And I chose to commit personal financial seppuku, basically. So I gave up my house, I owned a condo, I gave up all my credit cards, all those types of things, to then take every aspect off my personal and believe fully in Marlow Design. But that was, for a guy who I was making well over 6 digits in a corporate employer, I had numerous, I was well known as the smart financial guy throughout my entire career, through my family, friends. Like I was the guy that always had it together. For that to have to then basically I didn't go to bankruptcy, but as close to it as you possibly could without doing that. Having to basically kill Marlow the person to focus on Marlow Design, that was easily rock bottom for sure.
Wow. So what does that, if you don't mind, what does that actually look like? So you gave up your condo and your credit card. Like, what does that actually mean? Like what's the difference between what you did and bankruptcy?
I think bankruptcy, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe bankruptcy is more of it's like a 10-year thing. It's more of a permanence. It shows that you've basically wiped out all your debt and you're not have any intention of paying it back, from my understanding. Mine was just basically by the credit cards getting written off and by giving back the house, I still had to eventually pay all these things to fix the credit,
So
which I eventually did.
Oh, sorry.
Those are good.
So you straight up gave your condo back to the bank.
I gave it back to the bank.
You didn't sell it. You just said, hey.
I didn't have the and usually you could add a degree of depression to that as well there too with that situation, but I could have found a way maybe to sell it and try to, but I just didn't have the resources or the time or even the mental. I'm like, I just want to focus on Marlow Design and not, to get the real estate. I bought it for $200,000. It was then coming in only worth about $130,000, $140,000 when that was when basically the condo market completely dropped out. So I was just saying, look, I'm going to take a $60,000 bath on this, and it just by the time of it, like to stage it and to show it and to try to get someone convinced to buy it, I just didn't put the effort in to do it. But it just, to me, I'm like, I would rather just let this all go and focus and put my focus into something else because I just didn't have the capacity.
Wow. So how did that go at the bank? Like you call them up and say, "Here's the keys." I can't imagine they're just like.
Well, they reach out to you. Yeah, when you're just like, well, I can't pay this mortgage anymore.
Right.
They reach out to you within about 3 months, and then they basically give you the notice, and they let you know, like, okay, well, this is the mortgage is in default, and that's that.
Wow. So then what did that do practically? So I assume the same thing with the credit cards. They say, okay, they cancel your cards. And do they send the stuff to collections?
They do. They send that to collections. There's a notice of write-off there, so it is. They do contact you, and they continue. I got very good at managing phone calls. I was a lot of blocked numbers on the phone, but and then eventually I paid it back. So that eventually all of it, yeah. So that eventually, the write-off mark is still there. So you still need 7 years for all those credit issues to drop off. But just for the say that it took me a little longer, but I eventually, once things were better in the business, I eventually did pay it all off.
Wow. So 7 years. It's about last year sometime. Mm-hmm. So. Is there still some baggage there?
Because I think this year will be the final, like, because 2018, and then the beginning of 2019 is when everything finally got written off. So this year, next year is when, like, yeah, the pain is clean from clean slate. So
wild. Thanks for sharing that. I think that's something which a lot of people aren't willing to share. And clearly, you're still here, still surviving, still around, and the business is here. So I think that's an amazing lesson for people to understand too. Is that we often build these things up to be like the worst thing that could possibly ever happen to us. And I'm sure it was brutal and painful. And like you said, like mentally, it just probably wrecked you for a time. But the point is that, hey, you were still here. And so what did that end up enabling you to do? Or what was the result of that whole thing?
Well, financially, it gave me a little bit more leverage that I could pour back into the business. Because essentially, despite all that, I had an unrelenting belief in what the business could be. So I knew it was going to succeed no matter what. So luckily I had that confidence there, despite the pain that I was dealing with at the time. But so that gave me financial resources then to pour back into the business to try to get a little bit more marketing, try to improve things to kind of get it to where it needed to be. But mostly it was emotional and mentally, it freed that up so that I could truly focus and give my best self to the business as well. So that enabled me to really take the time to figure out what exactly is wrong with my business, what do I have to do to bring it to the next level, and make real plans to move the business forward in a way that was truly impactful.
Right. So you're saying that it mentally freed you up because you were no longer thinking about it, even though you knew it was still going to be lingering for a while. Mm-hmm. And then financially, I mean, I assume you just weren't taking that money and putting it towards interest and stuff.
Yeah, you now had, say, $2,000 to $4,000 extra a month to move into the business.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow, crazy. When you said that you had unrelenting belief that the business would succeed, I think that's something I want to chat about next time and see, is that just, is it really like a belief in the business, or is it just like total ridiculous resilience? Is it, was that like the right call? Where did you dig in and find that? And so I think we're gonna chat about that next time when you come back. And so I think it's a good spot to wrap it up for today. Thank you for being here and tuning into this chat with Marlow. Marlow, where can people connect with you if they want to, whether online or whatever?
They can go to marlowdesign.ca, where you can book an appointment with us directly, either digitally or in person at our studio. You can also get a hold of us at info@marlowdesign.ca or by phone at 403-992-8452.
Thanks, Marlow. See you next time on Founder to Founder. Thanks for being a part of Founder to Founder. I'm Alex Putici. Till next time, keep building, keep innovating, and remember, no one succeeds alone.